What's up, guys? It's me, Roku, back with another top lane tier list for patch 12.6. I'm not going to explain anything here because I've already done that in the last video, and I'm just going to use the same structure and the same tier list format, so let's just get right into it. Aatrox is a pretty solid champion for solo queue, takes a lot of skill, but if you do understand how to play some of his worst matchups, then you can get a lot of work done because he's a team fighting nightmare. Like, he just can get a lot of work done with his AoE Qs. Akali is a decent champion once she gets her ultimate, but that's her problem. She needs to get her ultimate to be useful. She's not that powerful in the levels 1 to 5, so if you can pick her into a matchup where you can actually survive those lanes, then yeah, sure, she's great, but most games just need a top laner to do something earlier on, and Akali's just not that good at that. She's not going to be doing anything with her jungler earlier on. She's not going to be able to protect anybody. She is a bit mobile, but that's basically it. She's just mobile and she does some damage earlier on, so that is it from her. She's a B tier pick. If you can survive the lane, it's okay, but you know, in some high octane, high elo games, she can just like not have the power to keep up with a lot of these top laners. Akshan is a very overpowered pick because he just plays top lane in a way that nobody else does. He has the power of being a ranged top laner, so he can abuse that to survive in lane. But on top of that, his insane roaming power makes it so that he can be at every single fight all around the map. And because he's invisible, he can just quite easily deal with vision and not even get caught. The enemy team has to have a lot of pink wards around to be able to keep track of you because Akshan is like, he has permanent invisibility with his like W, right? So yeah, he is the best range top player in the game and he's quite overpowered. Up next, we got Camille. I'd say Camille is quite an overpowered champion. Like, obviously, like, she could be stronger, and we saw that like ever since she got nerfed she's been quite weak, but that's only because most players who play Camille don't actually know how to play Camille. In season 11, Camille was so overpowered that like you didn't have to actually know the champion to win games with a champion. She was just that broken. But now that they nerfed it, right, they nerfed it like way long ago, but after they nerfed it, you have the situation where some Camille players know how to play her, where the overwhelming majority have no idea what they're doing. They're just boosted and horrible at the game. So all these players are making Camille look bad, whereas in reality, she's a pretty good champion, but she just takes a lot of skill to play right now. Cassiopeia is basically just a counter pick. If you can get up against a champion who, like, you can abuse with your range and stuff, she's amazing, but she can get destroyed if she's up against somebody who's mobile enough to basically punish her and avoid her Qs without having to do some, you know, tricky dodge mechanic. Cho'Gath is, I think, a great tank in the game. He just is not easy to play because his abilities are very dodgeable and very outplayable. So against some of the more mobile champions, he just gets outclassed completely. But if you do pick him into a good composition where his silence can be used properly, or into a team where, like, you know, he can actually land his abilities properly, then he's going to be an insanely powerful pick. It's just that laning is quite difficult as him. Do we leave anything? No, Darius. Darius is now an S tier pick in my opinion. That ultimate buff really put him over the edge, so he's an amazing top lane pick right now. Although he does get counterpicked quite hard still. The matchups that he lost, he still loses them. The games that he can't do anything else in, the games where he can't do anything in, he still does anything. Let me articulate that like a human. The games in which he does nothing in, he still does nothing in. But in this middle area of like the games he crushes, the games he doesn't crush and is just useless, in this middle area, that buff basically helped him like do a lot more in these situations than before. So that buff is going to help him out in a lot of cases in solo queue. So I think he's S tier. Now he can still be countered, he can still be outplayed, he can still be basically just dealt with. It's just that he's a lot more useful in more situations. He can carry a bit harder. Mundo is a very powerful lane holder. Well, powerful might not be the right term, but he's just there to remain in lane. Great for weak side, great for getting camped, great for just existing and waiting for your team to carry the game without you being too useful. I mean, obviously he's useful. He can throw his hatches. He can do a lot of damage to squishies and stuff, but like he's not that great if he's behind, is he? It's not that easy to get ahead of him. Fiora is a very overpowered champion. This has been the case for a while now. She's just been loving all the changes in the game. Basically, every single change in the game so far has been an indirect buff to her, so she's just absolutely reaping top lane up. She can beat any lane if you play her properly. Her side lane is basically unbeatable by most champions. She's just very, very, very powerful. And, like, her only inhibitor is the skill of the person playing her. Gangplank. Gangplank is a decent option in my opinion. He's basically a lane holder, but he scales up to be a great backline damage source. In higher elo, if your teammates understand this and play around you properly, support you, don't let you get weak-sided, then you can be like an A tier pick in high elo. But the thing is, if you're low elo, your team is basically not going to care about you, so you're going to be very easily just abused. And the thing with Gangplank is that if he dies a few times, then he can't exactly match up to anybody. He just gets killed very easily when he's behind. Gangplank has to stay at least even with his opposing top laner to remain in lane. Otherwise, he just gets killed by basically, you know, a wind blowing over the wrong direction kills him basically. So yeah, he needs a lot of help to get off the map, to take off, if that makes sense. But yeah, you get a lot more help when you have teammates who actually understand what you are capable of. Garen is a solid champion, easy to play, crush a lot of games. In high elo though, his macro skill comes into play because a high elo Garen build is going to have a lot of move speed, and with this move speed, you can basically just clear waves and just be all over the map, catch people out on rotations, maybe make some vision control play where he's just in a bush and he just kills someone randomly. Just all these things are the bread and butter of Garen. So if you have the macro to back up this playstyle, then Garen is a great pick in high elo. But in low ranks, he's basically a low elo champion to just, you know, breathe on the enemy and kill them with. Gnar is a decent lane holder. He's not the best. He can be abused and killed by a lot of junglers. But the thing is, he basically has one of the longest dashes in the game. If he jumps on a target, it's just 2 jumps. And that basically just puts him to safety almost every single time. So unless he's completely grossly out of position, he can do fine. You basically pick him to survive lane and to work with your team in team fights and carry team fights. Like that kind of champion, right? He's like a jack of all trades in that he's a ranged top laner who can hold lane. He doesn't get countered by a lot of bruisers, and he can turn into a tank and carry the team fight, or at least help, you know, CC everybody so his teammates can carry it. But he can't exactly 1v9 games or anything, so that's where the Gnar's weaknesses lie. Gragas has amazing matchups. He cannot be countered. He is the perfect top lane champion to pick for blind picking. He has just a lot of great trading abilities, like he can trade very well. His belly slam is instant CC, so if he pairs that up with phase rush, he can just do his combo, belly slam, instant CC, and just run away and basically not leave like the opposing top lane in room to trade back. And the best part is him using his abilities heal him. So once he gets to like level 7 or whatever, he starts healing a lot from his abilities. At that point, it's like, you know, it's like playing against a Garen essentially, where if you trade against him, it's fine, but he's just gonna heal up, so you better just kill him or just not trade against him at all. Graves is basically like Gangplank, but just a bit weaker because Gangplank just has a lot more range and can do a lot more. And actually, Gangplank scales better than him, whereas Graves kind of just... He has a spot after he gets 2 items where he's insanely powerful in the mid game, right? He's kind of like Darius. He's insanely powerful in mid game, but he falls off later, and super early, he's not that good. So it's like, you got to get your kills, take off, and then just get your items, and then carry the game. And if you can't, then you're going to be basically useless. So because of this, he's just best for just using your skill to hold lane, just wait, do nothing, and then if you see a kill, get it, cheese the kill, and then try to scale up. But he's at best just there for not dying in lane because of his, like, if you take fleet footwork on him, then you can just, you know, shoot the wave, get some sustain, and just, you know, survive basically into a lot of these champions. Did we get everyone? Yep. Gwen is a decent situational pick. She just suffers the same thing as Akali, where she is insanely weak pre-6. I do get that she has her level 1, which is one of the strongest, but like once level 1 is over, level 2, 3, 4, 5, she just cannot do anything in these levels. Like straight up, she does nothing. In early fights, all she contributes to the fight is just some damage, right? Not even that much damage, just some damage that can be easily kited. She has no CC. She's not that tanky, she can't block things. It's like her usefulness is as close to 0 as you can get pre-6, but post-6, she can basically 1v1 anybody. Her ultimate lets her destroy people, just catch people out with a slow, and once she gets her items, she can be a team fighting nightmare, or just using her W to really just crush people like by herself. But you gotta have enough skill and knowledge to play through the early levels and just survive against a lot of these picks. Heimerdinger is basically a counterpick champion. He's great at holding lanes, I guess, but you should be picking him into a matchup that you can just constantly bully under turret and just kill, because Heimerdinger is not that good in like silence or whatever. He's way too mobile, and aside from just ulting ult queuing yourself and then zonyoing, you can't really do that much to protect yourself. Like, nothing you can do to stop the enemy team from basically collapsing on you and killing you, right? And he doesn't even kill turrets that fast, so he's not that good at split pushing, he's not that good at side laning. He's basically there to get to team fights, set up the fights so that he can actually fight them, and defend the area and make sure no one gets in it. And the bad part about this is that because fights are so mobile, everybody's chasing people, everybody's like dashing everywhere, like this gets a bit difficult to do as Heimerdinger. But you know, if you do pick him into a right matchup, if you do get your items, if you do start doing a bunch of damage, you might not even need to put your turrets down. You can just put the big one down, or just do an ult W, or even like start an engage fight with your ult grenade. Just get a massive engage off of that. So yeah, well, not an engage, but just a pick rather. But that's where he's very versatile, but it's like the things that you need to do well in the current game right now are just not things he can do that well, which makes him so like he can't really top lane in a lot of situations. Like, he needs a lot of stars to align for him to top lane well, and they're just not going to happen most of the time. So he's an exclusively counter pick champion. Illaoi is a low elo pick only. She is just not good at all. I've seen countless cases where Illaoi gets that perfect ultimate off in a team fight, but she just gets one shot anyway because one, everybody has anti-heal, and two, she's just not tanky enough, and three, she gets very easily just CC'd and destroyed. Like Illaoi just cannot carry games in high elo, man. She is just horrible. She's best in a side lane where she only has to fight like 2-3 people, because then she actually has the time to ult and use her like tentacles to heal back up from the damage she's taking. But it's like, if she has to fight a solid backliner who can do damage, she is just gonna get swept up. That's just how it is. And not to mention how she's not that mobile at all. She can't keep up with a lot of these more mobile fights, which puts her into the low elo only category. Irelia is basically just overpowered. She plays herself. She has a lot of amazing lanes she can just get super fed off of, and she like scales up insanely hard with her items. Her only weakness is just she's a bit more awkward to play in team fights because she can't just get CC'd in one shot, and like there are some matchups that destroy her, but the thing is, right, if you can get like 2-3 items as Irelia, you can just head right into a team, kill 2 backliners, and die, but it's worth it because you killed half their team. She's just insanely overpowered in the game. Not too much because of how well of a top laner is, but because the champion is just overpowered, right? In the grand scheme of things, in a teamfight setting, it's just a broken champion. I'll put Janna in the super niche to represent these support tops, the flash smite supports who roam all the way around the map. It's not the best playstyle nowadays because they fixed the objective bounty and nerfed it properly, but it's still there for people who want to do it. Jax is back in S tier because that bit of stats really helped him out in a lot of fights. I've had a bunch of all-ins against Jax where, like, I almost kill him and he kills me because of that one bit of health that he had over me. So them buffs to him are really helping out in a lot of these buffs and in a lot of these fights. And the thing about Jax is that he doesn't really outplay anything. He just stat checks you, right? He just beats you by bashing his head into you. Like, he just waits when the time is right, then he goes in and, you know, just fights you. Like, because of that play style, the way it's like, just extra stats are just going to help him do that better. And that's exactly what the buff did. I think he should be back to S tier, or at least, like, be in the border of A and S tier. Jayce is very overpowered, lots of tools, cannot be beaten in lane easily, doesn't really have that bad of matchups, has a lot of tools to do whatever he needs to do, lots of early game power, and the only thing inhibiting him is the skill of the person playing him. There we go. Starting to get that out. Karma is basically the best support top to play because she just has a lot of move speed in her kit, and like she has everything you need to basically harass top laners. She has slows, she has damage, she has wave clear, she has a stun, and she has move speed that also gives her a shield. So like if you get on top of her, you get a stun on her, then she just stuns you, move speed shields away, and she's just gone. She's also insanely powerful earlier on because of how her champion works. So it's like she can actually put up a decent fight against a lot of these champions. It's just that she's just not that useful. She doesn't even do that much in lane. She can't really snowball. Even if she does like fight someone, it's like, yeah, she can maybe get some annoying heals off using Moonstone, but that's basically it. Like, and if you do lose lane as her, then it's not that good of a look because like the person's just gonna get fed off of a champion that you picked to hold the lane. So I should put her in lane holder. I'll put her in lane holder because she's just there to hold the lane and to survive, right? Yeah, I think this is the better spot for Karma. Kayle. Did I miss anybody? Kayle. Okay. Kayle's a great champion. She just takes a lot of time to get started. Even if you do counter pick her, or even if you do like side lane and just camp her, she does scale up eventually. Your team just needs to be in a position where they're good enough to hold the game until you can come back into it and carry it by yourself. This does not happen in low. People won't care. They'll just run it down, die, and blame you like for picking this champion who can ultimate at level 16. But in higher ranks, people will still flame you, but they'll at least be a bit better at holding the game long enough for you to come into the game and just, start doing stuff. So yeah, she's a greater pick in higher elos, but in lower elos, she's, a bit like, if you get left alone, you're just doomed. You gotta just do some like ignite lethal tempo cheese or something to cheese win the lane and have a chance of like surviving. Kennen. I'd say Kennen is basically a counter pick, not a lane horde counter pick, because he does have like good matchups. I think with Kennen is that he just does not do enough to match up to a lot of these stat balls over here. He just does not have the damage, the stats, and just anything enough to match up to these guys. At best, he's a nuisance, right? And he just stops you from CSing a bit, but that's all he's going to do. His level 6 all-in isn't even that great. It just kind of holds you in place for a bit. Like, he's there to work in a teamfight scenario, right? He's not that good in a 1v1 solo lane, which is top lane, right? He's greater in a situation where he's fighting multiple targets, and he can really make use of his ultimate to stun multiple people at the same time. You just got to play him into a good matchup, or he's not a good top laner at all. Kled. I'll put Kled in a good situational. A lot of the higher tier champions have like a really good matchups into him. They can just play in a way that just completely destroys him, or at least keeps even with him. He's mostly good if the person you're playing against doesn't know what they're doing, so you can just get fed and carry the game with your ultimate. Like, in that manner, he's quite good, right? In low elo, he's an amazing pick. And in high elo, you have to be playing against an autofill or something, because a high elo top laner who is a main of one of the OP champions, or just the strong champions, is not going to be a pushover, and it's going to be a bit hard for him to get the cheese kills he needs to really start popping off. Let's see... I know some like bronze is gonna talk about, oh, where's Lillia? But yeah, like Lillia, I'll just put her here. She's okay, I guess, if you're up against a matchup who doesn't like get you off of the wave, like who lets you get your abilities on the wave to get your move speed so you can actually trade. But like no one with a brain is gonna let her do that. She's just not good at all against anybody who understands how the game works, who understands anything about Lillia's kit. Not to mention how she's just horrible in trades and all-ins, like she just can't match up with a lot of people, and a lot of these people have stuns and slows that once they get on top of her, she's losing half her health or just dying straight. So like she's just like not a good top laner at all. Just some cheese pick that someone loses to, and she's a top laner. Malphite. I'm not blaming anybody, just I'm just kind of sick of people commenting where's Lillia in my tier list videos. Malphite's a very powerful counter pick champion. If you're up against like a strong auto attacker that just gets neutered by Malphite, he's a great pick. He's like a great pick too because he takes basically 0 skill to play. You can just have him in your back pocket whenever you need. Just pick him against like a Jax or something and just completely ruin his game for him. And the best part is, even if you do lose lane, you can still be very useful because of your ultimate. Your ultimate is instant. So even in the state of the game right now where everything is super fast, everybody's dashing all over the place, Malphite is a very, very, very good option because you can just catch people like flash ult, and you basically have no way to react against that unless you predict it. So yeah, great champion, great counter pick, great for autofills as well. Let's see, Lucian. Lucian's a decent range top laner. I'd say I'll just put him in a super niche because Lucian's not that good in the meta right now in terms of bot lane, right? Like he just doesn't do that well. He gets outranged. Like his early game power is not enough. Like he's okay if you pick a good support with him, but like, you just need that good support synergy to do that well with Lucian. In terms of top lane, he's basically just alone. And the thing that puts Lucian behind is that once you get on top of Lucian, he has no way of putting space between him and you, right? Like he does have his like dash, but it's not enough space because a lot of these guys have move speed and stuff to just catch up to you anyway. So it's like he is very abusable, even though he's a ranged champion. Now, if he does win lane, he's going to be an absolute monster. You can potentially even win that in the game, but it's like that's just not that easy to do because of like how he's just not that good at protecting himself. Maokai, horrible champion, way too slow. Everything he does can be outplayed or just played against. He has horrible matchups. Just do not pick this guy top lane anymore. Mordekaiser. I'd say Mordekaiser is like, he's still a low elo only pick, but he's been a bit stronger than he used to be, right? He's slowly coming back up, but unfortunately, he's still just a low elo pick. He's just not cut, like, he's just cut from a different cloth, man. He's just not meant for this game. Like, his abilities are way too slow. Normal damage dealers still beat him even in his death realm. Like, I ulted a Zeri once on Mordekaiser as, like, a fed Mordekaiser, and she still killed me. Like, I couldn't catch up to her. It's like Mordekaiser is just a sad champion. He's just not made for the Kirk game. But if you're low elo, then you can just play Mordekaiser, because in low elo, Mordekaiser is one of the best like top laners because of how simple he is. He just crush games really easily, and people don't know how to kite properly. So in team fights and stuff, you can get some work done as him. But in high elo, he is not a great champion. Nasus. Now, when I put Nasus in low elo only, I want to do it with a caveat. Okay, I'll put him in counterpick actually then. Like, because the thing is, right, if you pick him in a matchup where you can make use of your W, right, where your W is, like, really, like, lethal, and, like, you're up against a matchup that you can actually just, you know, scale up your 6 with, then he's actually not the worst champion. Like, he's not that bad, you know? But, like, he's just so bad early, and it's like, yeah, I'll put him back in low elo, but, you know, he can be used in some high elo games, okay? So, he's mostly a low elo pick, but there are some high elo games where he can be quite good. So, it's like, I don't mean to put him in just low elo. He's like in between these two tiers. If that makes sense, okay? So he's right there, but I'll just put him here for the sake of the tier. Neeko, I'll just put her in horrible. Like, she's just not that good. She's a really bad range top laner. Same tier with Lucian, actually, right? She's like a mage range top laner, but, like, she's just not that good, man. She can't really protect herself if you get on top of her. Her abilities are kind of telegraphed and very avoidable by a lot of these champions. She can just get hardcore abused by, like, you know, it's like range top lane bully. Bigger range top lane bully. It's like she just can't do a lot against a lot of these champions. And then once she can do things against, like, a Darius where she can just kind of outrange him, it's like you can still kill the Neeko as the Darius. It's like not good matchups, not a good champion for top lane, and it's not a good champion in general. Neeko was just kind of useless as a champion in the current game, or just is, not was. Well, was as in she was for like 2 seasons already. Nocturne, not that great. He's basically there if you can cheese your lane, get a few kills, and then stop the entire map with. But if you can't do that, then you've basically doomed your team. And like, he's just not that good if he's not fed. Nocturne needs kills to pop off. But if you can pop off, then he can have some use within top lane. Olaf, horrible champion, doesn't scale that well. His good matchups outscale him for the most part. Just like, this guy is going the same way as Mordekaiser, man. Really sad. Ornn is basically the most powerful tank in the entire game. His laning is insanely powerful. He cannot be counterpicked. Oh, sorry. That's sparkling water. So yeah, he has insane trading, his laning cannot be counterpicked, he's a perfect blind pick champion, and he can do a lot of work in team fights just with his ultimate and stuff. So yeah, he's really good. And if you need a tanky champion to add to your champion pool, then Ornn is that champion. Like, he does take a bit of skill to play, the matchups need a bit of skill, and you gotta know what abilities to not waste to survive. But if you know all of that, then Ornn is a lovely champion. Pantheon is quite underrated. With enough skill, you can basically put up a fight against all these champions, and once you do get fed, you can just stay in team fights for as long as possible. Like, he might look squishy, but if you use his E properly, you can block a lot of damage and just get yourself to safety before you get one shot. So yeah, he can carry games if you have the macro to use his ultimate properly and stuff. Great champion in my opinion. Renekton's on the up and up. He's got that massive Bork buff that basically gave him the second win to come back into top lane as a useful champion. He takes a bunch of skill to play, but if you do understand how to play a lot of these matchups, you can get fed and get a lot of work done. Quinn is a great range top laner. Her ultimate lets her basically roam like all over the map, participate in any fight, and still come back top without losing too much CS. And the best part is, it's like, in high elo, if a Quinn is level 6 and off the map, she's roaming. So you can't really do anything aggressive on the rest of the map. So if she's up against the champion without teleport, then it's going to be a nightmare to play the game for the team that's opposing her. But like, there are some matches that absolutely do crush her, so you just have to play it a bit carefully. Because if you are not at least even by the time you hit level 6, then it just, you know, you're not going to be doing that much unless you get to the right fight at the right time to just pick up the kills. Poppy, yeah, I forgot. Okay, Poppy is a good counter pick. She's not just a counter pick to matchups though, she's a counter pick to entire teams. So if there's a team with a lot of dashes and stuff, then she's a perfect pick to just have and nullify a part of the enemy team with. Like, she can legit make some impossible games possible just because of her E. Just a great champion to have in your back pocket. She does take a bunch of skill to play though, so I'm not too sure about recommending her too much, right? So like, if you can play her good, you can have her in some games, but she's not a champion you want to main, right? Because if you main her, then you're just going to get destroyed by like a Darius or something, and it's not going to be fun. Rengar did get buffed a bit, but they just added a few new mechanics. I looked into it even like myself, and from what I can tell, it doesn't change his strengths, doesn't change his weaknesses when it comes to top lane. Maybe he does have a better matchup into like an Akali or something if he lands his Bola, but that is basically it, right? Like, he's just the same state as he used to be. Just a very situational pick, but he does get countered by the same thing, so you gotta have a lot of skill on him to basically keep up with these champions. Riven is overpowered. She's like, the bruiser item rework basically buffed every single one of her items when she was already a strong champion. So it's like, I guess we're gonna have another half a year, like, where she's overpowered. Like, right, just every season she's just overpowered for half a year. So it's like tradition to have her be god tier around this time. Set has been struggling quite a bit. He's not doing that well lately. He does get like countered by a lot of things in team fights. He kind of just like is a bit too immobile. But the thing is, right, he does have a lot of value in that. Even if he does get camped and gets destroyed, there's at least a minimum he can do, and that minimum is higher than a lot of champions in the game. So I'd say he's one of the best champions to play on the side lane. On the weak side, right? If you're getting weak sided, Set's like a great juggernaut to play, as long as you're not counterpicked. But like, you know, he is weaker than he used to be, so he is B tier if we're counting all elos. If this is just low elo, he's like A S tier, because in low elo it's like there's nothing to mess up on the set and nobody's gonna dodge your W. But if we're talking like decent players, then he does start struggling quite a bit. Shen, there are 3 fundamental rules of top lane: grass grows, birds fly, Shen is S tier. Like, it's just, he's just always S tier, man. But but yeah, jokes aside, his ultimate just lets him do a lot of work on the map and be more than just a top laner and be like a second jungler. The enemy team has to basically play very carefully if Shen has ultimate up, and as a top laner opposing Shen, it's very difficult to just nullify his impact on the map. So, like, he's just perfectly made for the current way the game plays. Rise, horrible champion. Don't pick him. All he does is clear wave. Rumble. I'd say the Rumble is like a good situational pick. He's great in that he has a lot of tools to win some games with. But the thing is, right, it's like there are some meat bags in the game that just absolutely crush him. And not to mention how, like, he really needs good matchups to be played properly. If he does have a good matchup that he can bully and just get fed through, then he can carry games by himself. He's got one of the best teamfight ultimates in the entire game, just a ton of damage and a lot of area denial. So if you're in like a Baron fight or something, or if you're fighting in the jungle, then his ultimate is going to solo win that fight. But aside from that, I'd say that, like, you know, he just needs to be picked at the right time to really make use of his powers. And also, he's a very difficult champion to play. He's like a one-trick champion. You gotta actually have a lot of games on him to really abuse him properly. Singe, I'll put him in super niche. He has his own playstyle. He does his own thing. He basically is just wasting the enemy team's time a lot and just helping a tiny bit where it matters. You can go Predator and just roam all over the map. You can proxy. There's a lot of things you do on Singed, but at the end of the day, it is just Singed. If you're up against proper people, intelligent players, or just an organized team, they're not going to have the best time with this champion. Sion, his split push playstyle is still overpowered. It's super annoying to deal with. It can't be dealt with in a lot of situations. It's just overpowered. Swain, horrible champion, horrible matchups, can't peel himself off of anybody, can't peel anybody off of himself. Is just like, just horrible, man. Silas, he's just there to counterpick Malphite. That is it. Tahm Kench, I'll put him back in super niche. He can still be played in some circumstances, but his power just got extremely nullified once they nerfed him. Well, they didn't nerf him, they just buffed him for support, but they just, like, nerfed him for top lane. So, like, after that nerf, he's just not that useful anymore. He's just not a good champion for support even. Like, he just doesn't fill that role that well compared to other people, but I guess they're fine with his current state. Did I miss anybody here? I felt like I did. Okay, Teemo. Okay, Teemo is a low elo only pick. This guy does not get picked in high elo at all. He's very, very abusable by junglers. Not a lot of Teemo players know how to use his shrooms properly to really just make it so that he's ungankable, right? A good team is gonna throw shrooms in like the enemy jungle, the Baron. Like he's gonna throw a few in mid lane, just sneak a few in there. Just like a good Teemo's shrooms, like you'll know you're up against a good Teemo when when you feel that like no matter what you do, his shrooms will be there. Like you can't walk around the map without like a sweeper on at all times, right? That's a good Teemo. Unfortunately, there's only a handful of people who can play Teemo like that. So it's like most people just play him in lane to just poke people down and to just throw his shrooms in. So if you can find the right game where his blind is going to be huge, then I guess he's fine. But in most cases, he's just a, haha, I'm an annoying range top laner, but in low elo. So, like, that's all he does most of the time. You guys like the Teemo impression? Trundle. Not gonna lie, Trundle is on the up and up lately. Like, he's getting more and more powerful as the time goes on. Like, I mean, like his level 1 is just so devastating. His early game is so insanely difficult to deal with. And even if you do deal with it, his like late game side lane is just insanely difficult to just put down. He's just like, if he gets his items and stuff, he cannot be put down in a side lane. I will put him in the B tier though, I guess. I'd put him in the A tier, but I think it's like I'll have to wait and see how he develops in like how much further he develops in the current meta. But he is on the up and up, so I'd put him in like the border between A and B tier if that made sense. He's an up and coming young star. Let's see. Tryndamere. The nerfs hit Tryndamere quite hard in my opinion. Like they really messed this guy up. Now he's still pretty strong. They didn't nerf the main problem, which was his Q. He can still stay in lane. He can still scale to an unreasonable amount. It's just that like he's gonna be a bit more difficult to play from now on. Right? He's gonna take skill to play again. Whoa. So yeah, kind of the same thing they did to the Camille actually, right? Just he can now be he now needs actual skill and knowledge to play properly. So yeah, he's now S tier. The nerf didn't hit him so hard that he's worthless. He's still a pretty strong champion though. Urgot. Urgot is a decent situational pick if this tier listing. Yep. Okay. Urgot is a very decent situational pick. If your team can play around you properly, if your team doesn't let you get like destroyed in ganks, if like you're allowed to do your thing, just scale up, then he's a great champion. His only weakness is that like he's kind of strong in the first 2-3 levels, but beyond that he just starts becoming weak. Like he's good at level 1, but from level 2 to level 5, he just sucks, right? He just can't do anything. He can't match up with anybody, and all he does in a single fight is like flip someone. If you can land that, then he can carry the fight, but he's just so reliant on that one ability that there's going to be a lot of circumstances where if you miss it, you're just going to be completely worthless, just walking around auto-attacking people, and that's not that useful, is it, right? So it's like, your opposing top lane Aatrox is like, killing half the team, just healing off, and just killing, and you're just like, it's like, it's just not, he's just not that good early. He just needs his ultimate to really put up a fight against a lot of these champions. A lot of these matchups do destroy him quite a bit. He basically has one chance, level 1, to, like, claw back into these lanes, and if he misses that, then he just gets destroyed. But yeah. Vayne. I'd say Vayne is like the premier annoying counterpick range top. It's just that like she gets abused quite easily by junglers, and she messes up her team composition. And you have to keep in mind like the enemy team composition that you're picking into, right? Because if you're picking into a team comp that just pops Vayne with a thought, then you're just trolling. But if you pick like Vayne into a team composition where you can actually pop off and 1v9 in the game, then you're doing a good job, okay? So pick Vayne into the right compositions, not just the right lanes, okay? But yeah, she's a great counter pick. It's just that she gets abused quite easily. Dude, I wish this didn't scroll down. What else do we have here? I guess Viego, nobody even plays him, but I'll put him in the horrible tier. Just don't play him. He just can't put up a good fight at all. Vladimir, he's a great lane holder, I guess. He just has a lot of sustain. He can survive, and he skills up to be a monster, but he doesn't have great matchups. That's 1. 2, he's worthless early game. He does literally nothing. No damage, no CC, just nothing. So, like, if you just need someone to just play on a side lane and just exist, then Vladimir is decent. Volibear. I'd say Volibear is like, man. Yeah, I hesitate to put him in B tier. He's just a counter pick. Like, Volibear is just suffering the same issues like more like Olaf, where he just gets like completely destroyed by just how the game works right now. But on the bright side, more like Volibear has a bunch of matchups that he can just absolutely crush. And once he does get fed, he can absolutely at least 1v9 or just do very well for his team. Be a solid frontliner who does a lot of damage, sets up a lot of things. But the thing is, when he's behind, he's basically worthless. Volibear is like a juggernaut in the body of a tank. He's like, he has to get kills to just pop off and carry games with. If he doesn't get kills, he's worthless. And it's just that like a lot of champions just destroy him, so it's not going to be easy for him to get a lot of kills. Warwick is a super niche cheese pick. He just exists to get kills in top lane with, and like, if you lose lane as Warwick, God help you, because you're going to be the most worthless person in the entire universe. Volibear is not a good tank. Volibear doesn't have a great CC, because remember, if he does, like, his only guaranteed CC is his, like, E-Fear, which he can just be walked out of. If he ults someone, then he can just be peeled off in seconds and just one-shot, okay? So he's only good if he gets fed early and can just brawl in fights that take a long time before, like, level 9 or something. Like, games like that where it's just he gets a bunch of kills and it just goes out of control, just like turns the game into an entire fiesta, okay? But aside from that, I just don't see him being a good top laner. He's just there to kill your opposing top laner. That's it. That's all he's good at. He's just good at 1v1s. And worst case scenario is, like, like if he does get fed, right, he can have some use. He doesn't have great use. Like, he doesn't snowball at all, right? He just does not snowball. He's just there to do his job. Nothing more, nothing less. But the thing is, right, like, if you don't win lane as Warwick, it's like, Jesus Christ, you're going to have the worst time of your life. It's like as bad as losing lane as Olaf, basically. Wukong. Wukong is a decent situational pick. He does need like a good matchup to survive him because he needs his level 6. He has, I think, arguably the best level 6 power spec in the entire game. His level 6 just changes things, man. It does a ton of damage. It's CC, just like, it's 2 things of CC, and he can also get his clone to do it for even more damage, right? So it's like, it's a very, very powerful ability. He just needs to be picked into a matchup where he can get that ability. But unlike some of the weaker early game champions, he can do a bunch of work pre-6 as well. He just, like, he has a bunch of mobility and he has a bunch of damage, so he can get some work done. It's just that you gotta play him into someone where you can have the time to get your ultimate. Yasuo, he's like a horrible champion, honestly. He is just not made for top lane. Like, the amount of skill you need to play this guy in top lane is insane. And you're not using that skill to just, like, I mentioned this in the last video, but you don't need to be skilled to win top lane as Yasuo. You need to be skilled to survive top lane as Yasuo. To survive. To not die. You have to outplay your opponent to not die. At every single turn. That's just how hard Yasuo is to play in top lane. He just cannot step up to any of these guys. So if you're up against someone with equivalent skill, they will just bash your brains in. It's like, just not a great champion for top lane at all. Yone is pretty broken, I'd say. He's pretty strong. Just the usual old Yone thing, right? He has a lot of tools to play lane properly. He can't quite step up to a lot of these champions, but he does scale incredibly hard. And if he plays his trades properly with his E and stuff, then he can actually, scale up properly. And the thing is, he's very, very useful. He can set up ganks. He can keep up with long fights with his E. He's just like really good at like just following up with whatever's happening. So he's a great pick, but it does take a bit of skill to play. A bit. Oh, down here. Yeah. Yorick's a situational pick. If you're up against the person that you can kill in lane, he is perfect, but without kills, he's just not the best in my opinion, because he is very easy to kill in a side lane, and if you're behind as a person in the side lane, meaning that, like, that Tryndamere you fought actually got kills on you, then you're not going to be able to side lane at all, because the only defensive mechanic you have is your cage, right? A lot of champions just absolutely destroy him, so you got to pick him into the right matchup, you got to kill that matchup, and then once you kill him, you're going to be basically 1v9 split pushing the game into oblivion, but, like, then again, if you aren't that fed, then you're very easy to just collapse on and just murder by the enemy team. Is anybody left? Let me just check if anybody's left. So 2 here. Okay. Like this, because I moved down here. Oh, I moved it up there. Yeah. I moved the jacks up. Okay. Like, I'm just counting to see if I have every single champion, right? I think I have everybody. Yeah, I'm not missing anyone. It's like every time I miss something, people are just like flaming me in the YouTube comments section. So I gotta make sure I don't miss anyone. But yeah, we got everyone. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.